football. So so it's the XFL you're talking about then, right?
Yeah,
I remember,
that's
because I remember it's tried to start in McMahon started in the 1990s, I think it was, and it had like 6 or 7 games where they tried to add wrestling bravado to football, which now they just got that in the NFL, so whatever. But that's funny. Anyways, hey everybody, welcome to the chat. As you noticed, we're on Twitch, also YouTube. So if you're one of those guys that's kind of in love with one platform and the other, you don't have to pick and choose. We'll get you on both. As always, we got back Curvy. I think how did you describe it? You described it like the married red pill classes. So he's part of like the generation with me, red pill dad, wine more please, all those guys. We've had him on here before, and you guys absolutely loved it. So we're coming back, and your topic was awesome.
Point of reference. I knew Stone before he learned how to speak or really type.
Oh, the illiterate phase.
I just remember going on PPD and people like not understanding anything you're saying. I was like, okay, I know what he's making a reference to. At some point, they thought we were the same person.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
they're all conspiracy nuts there, whatever.
All of the purple-haired Karens over there.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the purple-haired failed attorney Karen.
What? There's another one of those? Why is there so many failed attorneys that just spurg up this place?
Well, no, I'm thinking about the autistic one. She's actually the most red-pilled female I've heard.
Oh, that old Jewish lady from like Pittsburgh or whatever.
Yeah, her.
Yeah.
Like she hated me, but she thought we were the same person. It was funny.
I thought she hated me though. She was kind of like low-key racist though, if I remember correctly. Like she didn't mind throwing out N-bombs because she's like a middle-aged Karen. She's got nothing to lose.
Yeah, I don't know if she was low-key about it, but okay.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I was trying to be polite about it. Yeah, honestly, and I'm really glad I don't go to that place anymore. In a stupid moment of like clarity, I like threw an invite over there. I'm like, hey guys, let me back in. It'll be fun. But I totally forgot that they have a habit of like doxing red pill guys. Like we ever told you a story about this old guy, Triadis?
I remember the name, but I don't know what happened.
Yeah, so I guess somebody from Purple Pill Debate recognized something from his posting history. It connected some dots. They found his Facebook page, and they tried harassing his family and his boss, the standard doxing stuff, right? But luckily, he's not like a red pill LARPing type guy. He's got his stuff on lock. So a lot of his family kind of explained, "This is some idiot on the internet, whatever." And the boss was like, "Yeah, it's cool. You make so much money. I don't really care what you do. Just don't stab puppies." So that kind of went away. But he was really choked on it. So he had to delete all his stuff, start it again, because, you have genuine concerns about somebody coming to your house and making a skin suit out of you. And I guess what had happened is he dressed up as like a homeless man and stalked outside the guy's place. And then the guy went outside one day and he just pepper sprayed him and then ran off. It was like the weirdest thing I've ever heard of. Now, I don't even know if the story is true because I heard it kind of third hand, but it was the funniest thing I'd ever heard of, that he got doxxed by somebody on Purple Pill Debate who recognized him. He ended up finding out who did it, and then it's just this is why you don't swat people.
So honestly, the reason that I changed my name and deleted the S-Curve profile, what was her name? The walking menu check.
Oh, Claire.
Yeah. She messaged me on one of her many accounts and was like, hey, these people are trying to dox you. You should be careful.
Well, that's nice of her. Honestly, yeah. She's, as far as you could call somebody like a red pill woman, I would put her probably in the closest category because she generally had a good heart and she generally wanted to see guys succeed. So
she was just heard about some dude cheating on her with a buck-toothed British woman.
Oh, that's right. That was what bothered her the most, that the girl was uglier. I remember that one.
Right.
But yeah, there's always one. But then again, you know what? She's going to die. We all are going to die alone anyway. Who cares? I love that.
Well, I mean, literally everybody. So we were trying to figure out how to make this an hour-long episode about dying alone. And I was going to tie it into legacy. So my whole point is this legacy idea that you're going to leave a legacy and you're gonna die surrounded by your children and grandchildren, as the patriarch of the house and all that crap. That's the same thing as a Chad Con LARPer. Like, that's the same generation of thought. I'm gonna sacrifice my life and what I want, so that people will remember me. Well,
Yeah, so I can have
honestly,
immortality.
right. Honestly, that literally doesn't happen. I work with a lot of older people towards the sunset years, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And everybody dies alone. And what I mean is, like, especially during COVID, like, you can't even have people visit.
Yeah, which is messed up.
Right, you're dying with maybe some stranger breaking your chest to get you back. Maybe not. The only people who die with family are the ones who know they're going to die well in advance
Mm-hmm.
and are able to set up palliative care in their home. And even then, it's like, well, if you die in the middle of the night, you died alone. You're still alone. Nobody was there to watch you go.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. So obviously, once you die, I mean, everybody has that afterlife issue, whatever. We'll put that aside for now. Everybody kind of knows that once you pass on, you're not going to be here to enjoy any of this stuff. Like, there's no payoff. So it's clearly a coping strategy for the present time. And I would argue it's a coping strategy for either a fear of failure or a certainty that you actually have failure now. Like, think about it. Yeah, right now life sucks. Yeah, right now I don't have the life I want. I don't have the girl I want. She treats me like crap. Whatever, like, grievance you want to throw in there. But as long as I just keep doing the same thing I'm doing and doing it extra hard and be a good boy, I'll be remembered forever and I'll get my reward in the end. And it just,
right, it's the whole church and heaven thing. And, frankly, yeah, we don't know. Maybe there's a doorway, maybe there's an afterlife, maybe you get reborn as a dog or something if you're really good. Like, I don't know.
We can at least agree that even if that is like 100% the case, your body is like you've structurally changed to such an extent that the way we think of things now is guaranteed not the way that's going to happen in the afterlife. So I just don't think it's thought through. I think it's a feeling. Like, here we got your feedback on your thing again.
Say again?
Like, there's a feedback on yours every time I speak. Like, are you listening on a headset or are you listening on speakers?
I'm on speakers.
Okay. Yeah, my voice is coming through.
So, the thing is, people, and men especially, I think, they want to be remembered. But how many people do you think get remembered after maybe their kids or grandkids?
Well, we can look at that now. How many people do you remember of now? There's like maybe 100 out of like 10, 50 million people.
Historical figures, and only because I read about them somewhere. So, and frankly, those guys who were historical figures with enough juice to be remembered, they weren't worried about legacy. They were doing shit.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Is there any way we can get you onto a headset? Because that echoes like really, really loud.
Let me go to another room because right now, honestly, I'm in a different house that I don't have crap in.
You're at that house again? Oh, wait, there. That's perfect.
Oh, no, I'm still moving between the two places. Is this any better?
Right now it's gone, so that's perfect.
Okay, works.
Yeah, so I mean, it's clearly a coping strategy, and I think back to, so yeah, you've got a medical history. I don't know how well you are with like psychology versus like the physical stuff, but do you know what transaction analysis is?
Yes.
It seems to me a lot of it is like that child. You know what I mean? Like the feelings based on your formative years, those kind of mental models. It seems because nobody can really argue it on a logical basis. Like, yeah, you're all gonna, like, we can talk about this. We can say all these logical reasons why you're going to die alone. Your legacy won't be remembered past your grandkids. And so that shouldn't be a factor in your life. And people can understand it, but you're not going to get that translating into action by people who previously believed it, which leads me to believe it's more of a feeling and emotion as opposed to like an actual thought process.
So I think you're right. And
the bottom line is this: all of our emotional reactions, all of our like scripts, are formed almost a couple of weeks within being born, because we seek comfort. So how do we get comfort? We get comfort by reaching out to hopefully mom with her breast milk and her warmth and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
And then we learn, okay, if I cry or if I don't cry, whatever the case may be, then I will get comforted.
Yeah.
Or then I'll feel better. And then we learn, okay, well, we have to do whatever we need to do to make mom happy. Like that kind of thing runs up in our like non-logical brain a lot faster than any logical reaction.
Well, yeah, because we're still in the developmental phase. We don't have a logical brain yet. We're only just running off of firmware, so it's emotions.
Right.
Everything is
and
about
that firmware is a heck of a lot faster.
Oh yeah, much faster. Here, the echo's coming back again.
Oh man.
I'm gonna buy and send you a headset.
I'm gonna get myself a headset if I keep doing these.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't even think about it, to be honest.
Well, thank you very much on that one. That's fine. Honestly, as soon as you get, I don't know if it's when you're in a bigger room or a smaller room, but as you're moving to a new room, it kind of goes away.
And that's funny because I've tried both rooms and it comes back.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's the volume. I don't know. Push to talk. Is that an option? Like, is that an option on this? I don't think it is. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Yeah, I'm just. Here, try something else because I can't talk. It just echoes.
All right, hold on.
Test.
1, 2.
No, well, you don't have to test. You're not going to echo on my side. Like, you can hear that, right?
Okay. Yeah, I hear you.
All right, so it'll have to be. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try something. Somebody has a good idea here. I'm just going to mute your mic every time I talk and then unmute it when I stop talking. So that way it should work out. It'll be a little bit sketchy, but.
And then I won't interrupt you.
I guess getting back on conversation here. So we're talking about this. It's kind of formative stuff. It's a lot of emotional based things. I'm trying to think now. So what are the actions that guys do that sabotage themselves when they have this? I want to leave a legacy. I'm going to die with my family, and like that mental model. It translates into crappy action. And the one I could think of the most is like the plow horse masculinity. Like, where the guy decides that his wife treats him like crap and he hates her, but he loves his kids. And so he puts up with it because he's building himself a legacy. What are your thoughts?
So it all translates into kind of the same dynamic of I'm going to sacrifice myself for something or somebody else, whether it's a corporation that I'm going to put 30 years in and they're going to give me a Rolex or whatever else, or I'm going to sacrifice for my kids, which, I think there's definitely a point to if you're going to talk about generational wealth and this whole social dynamic of socioeconomics. But in general, the people who get remembered, I don't think ever cared about being remembered.
I think that's a fair point. Well, actually, there's some exceptions. I can think of like the old Greeks. They were big on that kind of stuff. But back then the world was 50,000 people. So to be remembered, you had a much smaller crowd of people to compete with.
And to be remembered, you had to die gloriously or write or, talk a really good book through. So how many Greeks do you remember?
Actually, yeah, that's a good point too. Even then, out of however many Greeks there have been over the time, or the Romans and that, you remember maybe 50. And those are ones that were emperors already, emperors or generals. There was never the merchant Palamedes or some whoever. And I guess that's the thing too. Like, there's a class part to it. So if you're not a person who's in a position where you're going to be like the top of the top, if you're not going to be the billionaire investor, like Zuckerberg might be remembered forever, but none of us are going to be Zuck.
So, and that's absolutely the case. If you think about what we know about Greek society back then, most humans were slaves, basically, at that time. So nobody remembers them, and nobody remembers the construction worker or the farmer. They remember the rich guys who could afford not to work, who could afford and sit and talk to young boys all day and talk about, love and all that stuff in the various forms and what's ethical and good. But they could afford to do that because they didn't have to pay any bills, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, yeah. So I'm thinking about that part. And I guess it could be seen as kind of a defeatist, very negative attitude. It's like, dude, you can't talk like that. Be optimistic. Nobody who could build a legacy didn't think of it. And I honestly don't see it that same way. I see it as more of a freeing experience. Like everybody has this idea that they need to sacrifice for some kind of world. And I think it's been abundantly established right now that we live in enough abundance that nobody really cares about the plight of man. And a lot of guys take that to be negative. I honestly take it as freeing. So now that the burden is off of your shoulders to hold society on them, like Atlas doesn't need the world anymore. Like, what is it you want? What is it do you want to do? A lot of guys don't know, but you've never had a chance to ask that question until this generation.
So it goes back to that hierarchy of needs, right? How high are you on that totem pole if you can afford to think about the good of mankind? You're not worried about shelter. You're not worried about food. You're not worried about, your own individual happiness at that point. You're not worried about, what you're going to do day to day. You can afford literally psychologically to think about everybody else. So for those of us, and that's most of us, who are just trying to figure out how to make enough money to have a comfortable life and have enough savings to not worry when we can't work, like we're not even there.
Actually, yeah, that's
so true. It's not a defeatist thing. It's just a useless thing.
Yeah, we're not there yet. But that's like everything. The guys, they don't have like a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. They don't have a girlfriend. They don't have a peer group. Meanwhile, they're trying to save the world. Not mentioning any any certain movements in general right now. I'm just talking generally. But yeah, it's everybody wants to skip. And I know there's a part of it that's like an insecurity with not having those very simple problems solved yet. Or I guess not easy, but simple. So you don't have those solved yet. And instead of dealing with the fact that you may be failing in them, which reflects poorly on your character in your mind, you try to fix these greater things. Like, oh yeah, dude, my life is crap. Nobody will touch my dick. But right now I'm building a garden in Seattle and that's okay.
Well, I mean, there's that, but it goes back to I don't want to go to the gym too much because then I'll get really big. And, I don't want to go, go do night game or whatever because I don't want to have to screw the fatty or whatever else.
Oh, dude, sorry, I cut you off.
You're not even failing.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're not failing. You're refusing to try because the fear of failure and rejection is strong enough that you would rather protect your ego by not even trying. I've had that conversation actually like 3 times already this week with like a couple clients I have and some other conversations where guys were talking about how they're in a bit of a slump and they just don't find this girl attractive and they don't want to. And I'm like, dude, like the whole point of abundance is a numbers game. There's nothing wrong with keeping a slump buster on the back burner. Yeah, maybe you don't like her too much, but like a lot of these guys have a problem. They can't approach people that they're really into because they get all tongue twisted. They get a little nervous. It's like, dude, practice your game on somebody you don't like, because when it's somebody you don't really care if you lose or not, you can actually like artificially have abundance, even though you don't have any other options. Cause you just like, I could take this one or leave it. I'd be embarrassed to tell my friends anyway. And I'm like, good, keep that one around. She's going to help your game probably better than anybody.
Every time I've had a dry spell, every time, some, barely 5 reaches out to me, on whatever. We smash, and then I feel a bit better about myself. And like next couple of weeks, I'm dating a tall blonde. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, but that means you're putting pussy on a pedestal and you're vilifying or worshiping. And I don't know. I can't even think of the MGTOW lines, but that whole like external motivation means you're a simp thing.
Well, You know, the thing is, I enjoy pussy, so I will pedestalize me getting pussy over me not getting pussy.
Ooh, that's the distinction. Like getting it. It's like the chase is better than the catch. Yeah, you like, you like getting wet and all that stuff, but for you, it's just the idea that you can, if you put some effort in to get it. And the slump buster is kind of like, all right, I haven't hit a home run in a while. Let's just bunt so I can get on base. It's like the action is the esteem there. It's not the goal and it's not the person. Like you're not making it about them, which is probably what's attractive to women because they usually think everything is about them. Everything is about them.
So I'm going to say this, and I will probably catch a lot of flack for this, but I truly enjoy getting a girl in bed much more than I enjoy having sex.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I've said the same thing for the longest time.
It's, it is what it is. Like, if I just need to take care of me, I'll take care of me. But I like the validation.
Well, yeah, well, it's not even, I would say validation is not an accurate term here. And I know this sounds like a little self-serving to say, but like you're not getting validation from the other person. Because you said yourself, if it was validation from the other person, the money shot would be where it's at. You're getting validation from the process. It's like, go back to caveman times. Yeah, cavemen, they like eating, but they don't just sit there and eat. They get a certain dopamine rush from being able to successfully hunt. It's not that they're worshiping tigers and lions, although some did. They're worshiping their ability to go and influence the world to an extent that it makes their lives substantially better. And I know that's like a long-winded way of saying it's not external validation, but you know where I'm going, right? With this.
Yeah, and so to me, it is validation of my ability to do something. That's all it is.
Yes,
it's not that I need this. I don't need this girl to tell me I look good. I need her to want to blow me. That's it. And the thing is, I don't need her to blow me. I need her to want to blow me.
Yeah. Well, not even her, but a girl. Like not, because that's what's the old pickup line is that it's not about getting that girl. It's about getting more girls. So I would argue that's the abundance thing and the lack of pedestalization. It's not that this girl will respond to your things, because that's like a nice guy paradigm. If I do what I think they want me to do, then they'll love me forever and I'll have a problem-free life. No, it's just like, yeah, I'm good enough that I'm going to get a girl, and now you're just sussing through them. So it can't be about that girl, because it's about the process. And the only thing that's consistent in the process is that you're in it every time. So it's more of like a self-love thing, if you want to do the Marcus Aurelius lines, I guess.
And, when I say girl, I don't mean like a specific one. I mean whatever one I am targeting at that time, which will change in a half hour.
Savage Kirby. You got 26 more minutes. What do you got, lady?
What do I got, lady? I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, so I just want guys to understand that the only way to achieve the thing that they want to achieve is to let go of the idea of pursuing it and get on the ball of becoming what you want to be.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, you can't. I guess I'll reiterate it from my blue collar education here. Yeah. So, you obviously want to have belongingness. We'll go Maslow's hierarchy in this. You want belongingness. That's intimate coverage. It's genuine desire is the term we've kind of thrown around it. The idea that a girl is not with you just because you're paying for her bills or because it's like a hooker arrangement. You want a girl with you for nothing other than the validation of, I got a top tier man. And that's easy enough, because it's not like be yourself is a meaningless term. You are what you do. So all you have to do is do top tier man stuff. And then people who like top tier man stuff create that feedback loop of, I improve in this and the response I get from my environment increases. And so it encourages me to do this more. That's kind of how we're wired. Like, we go drink water from a swamp, we get sick. That disincentivizes us to continue to drink water from the swamp. Meanwhile, we drink clean water. It's good. It's just that, but from a belongingness level. You do attractive stuff. Attractive people decide to give you more attention in the ways that matter. It's not like simping somebody or friend zoning them. Like, say what you will about sex, but a girl having sex with somebody is a far larger commitment, or at least from an evolutionary standpoint.
Absolutely. And so the other thing is, We were talking about this last night with Jack and that whole crew. Is women don't think. Well, I think they don't think, but they definitely don't think like guys think. And I don't mean that they're dumb or anything like that. I just mean that like the amount of stuff that goes through their head and how they have to process their emotions is way different and way more of a cognitive load. So I see this all the time. Girls who you would think would have no insecurity are the most insecure women out there. And if they see you as having value, and I don't mean like a transactional value, I mean like you're a valuable person, they will literally do whatever they can to be with you, and even if it goes against what they want to do. So they'll have like this they'll feel bad about wanting to, at the same time they know they want to, at the same time they know they shouldn't. And imagine
that conflict,
that whole emotional process. Imagine that whole process going on through your head at the same time. And then they'll think something along the lines of, well, maybe I wasn't good enough and blah, blah. Like, try one time. Don't finish with a girl. She will think like she is the worst thing since sliced bread.
You might as well just slap her at that point for how much it hurts her ego. I 100% agree. Actually, here, I'll break... Oh, sorry, cut you off there. Keep going.
I was gonna say, and the thing is, you don't even have to like not have finished or whatever. She has to think maybe you didn't, or she has to think maybe you didn't have a good time, and then she'll be like, well, what did I do wrong, and this and this and this. Meanwhile, we're thinking, oh, I was trying not to come too fast, and so I wound up like whatever, not doing what I wanted to do. Like we've had these conversations on MRP and all that. Like women have validation from the fact that they made you happy.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, here I'll break it down for other guys too. This is why BPD chicks, like those borderline personality disorder chicks, are so enticing. So in the same way that like narcissism is the male disorder, borderline is the female disorder. But instead of having it dialed up to 12, you dial it to like, 5, 6, a nice healthy level that's functional. But that's what you get. It's not that. So if she's really into you, she starts to like the things you like. And it's not a case of, well, my man likes, the San Francisco 49ers, so I'll like the San Francisco 49ers because that makes him happy. And this is like the cognitive, like the clever part of it. And this is as close as what you could get to what people call pair bonding. But they actually convince themselves they like it. So to them, it's they actually like it. And even if their dad was a, Green Bay fan, or their new husband after the ex-husband becomes a Raiders fan, it's literally in that moment, I feel like a 49ers fan because I'm with my top tier man. And that's that whole, like you just described it, the girls will call through broken glass to be with you. It's they psychologically are hardwired once they defer to an authority in their life to actually start adopting his traits. And that's that purple pill debate argument about how girls have like a moral objectivism to them, but a factual relativism to them. So their whole purpose of arguments is to find out who has the higher status and then adopt their moral framework and then treat that as a linear progression from immoral to super moral, as opposed to guys who have a much more like relativistic. It's positive for me, it's negative for you. So everything has trade-offs.
So, and we see that now with, at least in the States, how society has kind of like split into you're either far left or far right, and like nothing in the middle actually exists if you look on the internet. Mm-hmm. Nobody can say, oh, I like this part of this, but I like that part of that. Like, that's not a thing. You're either a commie bastard or, you hate black people. I don't know.
Thank you, by the way. Apparently that word is like an automatic YouTube, like strike the N-word, the other N-word.
The other N-word.
The political N-word.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But I'm like, I can't. This is what you're one of the chosen people. We can talk. All right, whatever. There were language filters. It's one thing I'm kind of liking about Twitch, by the way. It's kind of like a scratch pad where I can just talk and ping ideas off. I don't know how strong the language is, but it seems to be better than YouTube so far.
I mean, I've never used Twitch, but I think you should definitely take your shirt off and play some games or something. See who's gonna send you super chats.
Dude, I was tempted. I told my girl, like, this is the sad thing. I've been doing this for like a year or two now, and I'm doing all right. But I bet you anything, you put on that workout shirt you have, you come on to Twitch and you start playing, I don't know, Minesweeper, whatever. You'll probably be a bigger brand than me on here and Twitter inside of like 2 months. That's kind of sad.
Dude, so I was talking to the chick that I'm seeing, and she was like, "Man, I might need to get a second job because I'm saving up for a house, all that stuff. You know, I should just go on get an OnlyFans account and sell people used underwear or something. That would be easy." Like, yeah, but I've seen you used underwear, and I don't know how much it'll go for, and just go back and forth on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then I went out and said, "Okay, well let's make a channel together." She's like, "No." I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "Because you're actually serious."
I just want the idea of having a second job. I don't actually want the second job.
And she will admit it. She's like, "I want the money, but I don't know if I want to put in the time." Which, fair enough. That's a good rational thought.
Yeah.
You know. Oh my God, Curvy's pedalizing a chick.
What?
Yep.
Somebody actually saying that?
No, I'm just like imagining somebody going, "Oh, Curve like this one and that one." Like, you know how I am. I do like this serial monogamy thing.
Yeah.
That's just me. But a lot of people once I would say, "Oh, there's this chick." No, there's no this one chick. It's the person that I'm talking to now. And if I didn't like them and respect them, to some degree, I wouldn't be screwing them. It's very simple.
I like that. You're talking about like missing object permanence, which is like a true abundance. You got to admit, as soon as it leaves your site, it's just gone.
I gotta remember what the heck object permanence is. Remind the audience.
Well, that's just when as soon as something leaves your site, it no longer exists. It's like a joke. I was just poking fun because it's kind of a developmental thing. Like where they do experiments with monkeys and they show them a banana and then they put the banana behind a barrier. And if the monkey like goes back there going to look for it, that means that they understand that the object is still there when it's not in their immediate vision. It's like a sign of like cognitive ability. But actually, I wanted to ask you a question and hear your thoughts on this because there's a bunch of guys from my community that were having a talk about that. Oh, we lost Curvy. Anyways, we'll get him back. I'll probably have to repeat that question about him. But it was about guys with like, is this all there is then? I'm just going to have like a couple plates throughout the year and then a long-term relationship and 2 to 3 year stints. And they were kind of really bothered by it. And so I thought, this is a guy who's doing that right now. Like he's been both sides of the fence with the wife and that. And now he's going this side with the OLTRs. Self-actualized enough, it'd be a good lesson for it. But I guess to sum up, hey guys, thanks for sticking around so far. The spiel, hit the like button, hit subscribe. If you're watching this on Twitch, congrats, man. I think we're up to like 30 subscribers now. I don't know what that means, but apparently it could be good. All right. I see Kirby's trying to connect again. His device is having some connection issues, so we'll get to him. We get to it. Anyways, so yeah, well, my thoughts on it. So I'll answer the question before I get Kirby back and ask him it again, but guys are talking about, is that all there is? And I know it's easy for me to talk, like my 11-year anniversary is coming up, but at the same time, it's like, whatever. When it comes, it comes. When it goes, it goes. Oh, dude, your sound is way better now. But I don't know if you heard the question. So I was asking before, a lot of guys in the community were having, my Patreon community were having that same conversation you were, like, is this all there is? Like a couple plates here and there, and then, a series of 1-2 year long relationships, and they actually kind of get disheartened by it. So I figure you're in a good position to kind of give them your experiences on it, because that's kind of what you're doing right now. Right. You're happy about it.
So I would much rather have a lifetime of 1 and 2 year relationships than a miserable lifelong relationship. So I don't want to call this like searching for the one, because it's searching for the one right now while she lasts as the 1 or 2 or 3, whatever. I heard this guy is wifing up 3 or 4 chicks at the same time. But at the end of the day, like, I'd rather be alone and happy I'd rather be alone and neutral than with somebody unhappy, but I'd rather be with somebody and be happy. And if somebody that I'm with stops making me happy, why should I spend my time on them?
And it seems simple when you put it that way. But like, why do you think they're having this kind of existential, like, animosity about it?
Because they don't. First of all, I think it's because they can't get 1 or 2 year relationships. That's probably what it is. Because when you're in one, you're fine. When you're in one, you don't think about this stuff. I think the guys who are like, oh, I don't want to do this because then I'll have that, and is this all there is? I think these are guys that did not vet hard enough for those 1 and 2 year relationships. And like, again, anybody that I see knows within the first year, if they do something stupid, I'm gonna go and be with somebody else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like ruthless boundary enforcement. And that was kind of my point to it. It's like, dude, if you're looking for that girl, I mean, it's like one guy, I already had kids. I don't want to do that again. I just want somebody to share some time with and be like affectionate with, want somebody younger. But then the same problems, like the epiphany phase girls just want babies. The older ones are kind of too much baggage. The younger ones are fun, but they don't last. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like you have a very specific set of what you want out of life. And that's fine. Most people aren't going to fit that bill. In fact, I'd argue almost nobody will. But like we just talked about before, when a girl sees you as your best option, she kind of adopts the same moral framework that you have. And I can't think of any way to get there other than a numbers game. So like you just got to plow through it. And if you're looking for that goal, and if you never get it, like enjoying the process is the best way to maintain a sanity, I guess, while you're looking for that unicorn, which again doesn't exist. The best you're going to get is somebody who complies with what you like out of life because they like your company that much. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think that it's a matter of understanding that you don't exist as what you think you exist. So let me explain that a little bit. Everybody sees you through their own lens. And so you don't know what you put out into the world other than the feedback that you get through other people's actions.
Oh, you're talking about like the 4 types of identity, like what you think you are, what others think you are, what you think others think you are, and what others think you think they think you are, or something like that.
Correct. And it changes every single person you interact with. So to some chick, you're like this funny dude, and she'll fuck you for that. To some chicks, you're this good-looking guy, and maybe you'll get laid for that. To some chicks, you're an asshole. To some chicks, you're a beta. It doesn't matter. To some guys, you're a beta. To some other guys, you're some sort of, I don't know, the epitome of whatever they like or dislike. People will build you up and down in their mind at will. You have no say in that other than being true to whatever you think you want to do in that moment. And I'm not going to say be true to who you are, because who you are changes. Just do things.
Well, that's why I always frame it as be congruent in what your goals are. Because then it has nothing to do with your identity. So there's no ego attached to it. Like you said, you want to get laid. So you go act like, is everything I'm doing communicating that goal effectively enough that I filter for people who want that too? But it has nothing to do with you as a person. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. You as a person doesn't exist. It's literally how other people perceive you. So if other people perceive that you won't enforce boundary, they'll do what they want to do. And you can't even blame them. They're not being mean. They're just being themselves.
Exactly. Selfish. But that's the thing. Everybody else is selfish. Like narcissism has kind of been notched up on average. And so if you're the kind of guy who, and let's face it, if you're the kind of guy who has to search your relationship problems and you find us on the internet, you're one of those kind of guys where you're most likely racked with guilt, racked with some insecurities to the level that like internet strangers being brutally honest would seem like the best option. And I agree. It's a great option, but the perception of it should be like, dude, you need nerds on the internet to tell you stuff. Come on.
Right. And so, back in the day, back when I was fat and depressed, I Googled this thing. I wrote this whole essay about my unique personal situation, and Wine Moore, or whatever he was at the time, just dunked so hard on me.
He dunks hard on everybody. That's what he does.
And I remember being so butthurt about it, like reading it over, like what did I do wrong? What did I say wrong? Like what the hell? Who is this? Like all that stuff. And at the end of the day, like you know what? That I put out the stupidity I put out there is my fault.
Yeah. Yeah, is he right? I guess he is. My bad.
Right. I was like, well, you know, for these reasons, like basically I did the white version of the I'm Indian, I can't get laid.
Oh, the Asian masculinity subreddit stuff. Dude, that place is the worst. I would put it as worse than dead bedrooms. At least dead bedrooms are in a relationship they hate. These guys haven't even got up to the plate and they're already talking about how they hate life.
Right. And you know, like that was the thing. Like that's what I was back then. And now I realize looking back that that's literally what I was putting out there. So no wonder that my job sucked, my wife sucked, all that stuff.
Well, yeah, because you put up with it.
Right.
I spelt it wrong. I was just trying to do something on this while we were talking about how cardamom with the coffee is the tits. I learned that in the Middle East. Everybody started throwing that in with their coffee, and then once they started drinking it, I got hooked.
I mean, I didn't know it was a Middle East thing. I've been doing it for a while.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know, Middle Eastern. You're kind of Middle Eastern, just not, you know, Persian. You feel me?
I'm the kind of Middle Eastern that's really, really European. Dude, I'm more Polish than Middle Eastern.
Oh, really? All right, fair enough. I was thinking more genetically here. I'm kind of dancing around the chosen people.
Well, you know, we got so here's my joke with anybody who wants to talk religion with me. When they don't want to put a Jewish kid they killed and blamed us for as their god, then we can have a conversation.
Oh, you went after the zombie carpenter, you savage.
Listen, the zombie carpenter is one of mine. Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically he is. It's like who was like George Washington was technically a Brit.
Correct.
But that was the thing. He was allowed to be an American president because that was wasn't that the rule that you either have to be a national born citizen or you had to have lived there once they beat the Brits. So he got in on a technicality. Good for him though.
So yeah, the way they did that is they realized that they wanted Americans to be president, but at that time there weren't. I think the minimum age was like 36 or 38. Mm-hmm. So there weren't enough of those guys around who have shown themselves to be leaders, who were born on this continent to count. So they made an exception for like the first generation or so of presidents.
Yeah, and obviously over time that would kind of waned off, which I guess is nice. We don't get that here, dude. You should see Canadian elections. So before, this is not going to be politics. It's just like an interesting factoid. Before Trudeau, the leader of the Liberal Party was a guy, Michael Ignatieff. He had dual citizenship. In fact, our Conservative Party leader, he's got dual citizenship. And the big sticking point for electing him was like he spent more of his life in London than he ever did in Canada. Do we want him as the world leader? And he almost got in. It's just that he had the personality of bland milk. But like we have a huge issue where it's like non-Canadians end up like running Canada. It's the strangest thing. But I get 10% of Canadians are expats too. So it's almost like we're an international hub for labor. It's a very strange thing. We've always had those kind of identity issues because we never really had a war to become a country. We just like filed the proper paperwork 100 years after you guys did.
So you're the legal immigrants of the world?
Apparently. Which really sucks because I always thought it was about mac and cheese, but whatever. Anyways, quick shout out, One Man's Way. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Is it safe to say if we change our self-perception, the way others perceives us mirrors that? I would say it doesn't mirror that. Like it has an effect, but this is where like the praxeology of Red Pill comes into play because you have to observe and see how people's behavior acts. Because that's a good thing. Because I think Why More Please, we talked about that. Well, what's the difference between this and, you know, the guy who's completely delusional? He goes, well, yeah, it's just because they're delusional. You have to ground your stuff in something you can measure in reality. And in this case, if you change your self-perception, in this case, let's use I am the prize. Curvy, you start acting like, you're the king, you're the God's gift to women. And so that changes your behavior. And then that signals a different signal to women in general, and they'll act differently. So in that case, they do. But at the same time, if you're just like a fat schlub and you're pretending, it kind of has a negative effect too. So it always changes it, but it doesn't necessarily mirror that. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So the difference between a creep or a geek or any of those things and an attractive man is whether his actions are congruent with what he looks like. So that goes to body language, clothes, posture, your physique, obviously. So think about it this way. If you ever tried on some clothes in a store with those, 3 mirrors where you can see different sides of yourself.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that. Like if you put on a good suit, all 3 sides will look good, but they'll look different from different angles. That's like different people. But if you put on a suit over, a BMI of 35, I don't really care what kind of suit you have. You can have the nicest suit, but it'll still be over a fat slob.
Which is true. All right. I learned today what yoked means too.
What's that?
But yeah. Oh, yoked. I just learned what yoked means.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, everybody's asking me if I am. I'm like, yeah, no, COVID took away the stomach line. So that's fine. It's coming back. So do you guys have a gym now?
I have a gym. I've started going back to training my little sport that I do. Everything's open. We just have to sign more paperwork that we won't blame people for getting sick if we get sick, I guess.
Oh, I envy you guys so much. We're doing like increasing the lockdowns. They made masks mandatory here. And now, luckily, a lot of stores just don't care. So I like how it's kind of being non-enforced and non-followed. A lot of the stuff downtown, but the gyms aren't opening. I had to take back cycling again. I haven't ridden my bike since I got hit by the car, man.
I am so sorry about that.
Yeah, you do what you do. Oh, look at this, dude! Check who's here.
Oh man.
All we need now is Real Zero Dad and Bogey D6, and we can have like a regular reunion.
Yeah, but can we get at least one wolf in here?
Oh. Where's Alpha as Wolf? Did you make it to prison?
I don't know. Dude, all those wolves were like, okay, as soon as you put wolf in your name or any kind of like reference to a pack leader, I'm like, you're stupid, you're done. Whatever.
Yeah. And they, without fail, I can't think of an example of one that didn't crash and burn very quickly with that stupid LARPing. Alpha in the title was another dead giveaway too. That's why Alpha as Wolf was the worst.
And there was one guy who I never liked, but I guess you guys did the ex-addict bro, that guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know why a lot of people didn't like him, but that's why I liked him.
I mean, I just thought he was a huge LARPer, but that was my perception. And whenever I would bring it up, he would get so butthurt that it would literally like increase my confidence in my own appraisal.
Well, that's what I liked about him. I didn't like him because he was top tier. I liked him because he was still like going off of his instincts or his old mental models and whatever, but then he would always have like a moment of self-reflection and kind of work on it. So he was literally a work in progress. Like, remember that story where he took his kids to a quarry and he kind of let them out of his sight for a bit, and some other dad started starting some crap with him and he wanted to punch him out, but then he kind of like stops, like, dude, I got to watch my kids. I can't be fighting some dude over my ego.
Right. Yeah. I remember something like that.
Yeah. But that's the thing. So like he wasn't there, but he understood that he wasn't there. He had a self-awareness and he was working on it. And that's all any of us ever asked from somebody. It's like, you don't need to be perfect, but we just need progress. And his just happened to be slow, but he came from such a low place. Like, what was he, like a pill popping drug addict with a enabler wife?
Yeah. Something like that. And then
and it got so bad that he had to leave her because he had two choices. Like, look, I can either be this enabled, horrible example to my kids that I can see every day, or I can leave, get myself clean, and then understand that I'm not going to be able to control how they're raised around her and her new boyfriend. It was a hard choice.
That guy tried to tell me he was a doctor once, which it's not that uncommon to have drug addict doctors, but it was just weird to me.
Well, I thought he was not a doctor, but like a pharmacist or maybe an anesthesiologist. I don't know. Doctor is such a generic term. You kind of have to specify unless you're a GP, right?
Well, he definitely. There were times where he sounded like he knew what the hell he was talking about, but then in my own head, I was like, if this guy treats people for anything, oh my god.
Well, I think he was Eastern European too, is the thing. So I think their bedside manner is a little different in the Slavic places.
Well, it is what it is. There was one guy that I can't remember his name, but he would just grind everything so methodically.
Oh, the Litz.
Yes.
Dude, he was Wine More Please and Mine. We always say he was like our favorite field report. And I almost wish like I could get his permission and just take his entirety of his like posting history and make like a book out of it. It was perfect. You're right. There was no emotion attached. No, like there was self-reflection, but he was literally just treating it like a job. Like this is how I fix this stuff and I'm not tied to the outcome. And you just journaled. It's perfect.
And it was the most boring read, but it was also the most effective progress I'd ever seen.
Well, yeah, he wasn't doing like an 88 Will 88 thing where everything was about showing the world how awesome he was. Or I think even One More Please makes the case that Archwinger was a little bit too addicted to internet validation with his field reports and stuff.
So honestly, I think all of the personalities, the Arch, all of the big TRP guys, including the fake Russian, they were just like children who couldn't succeed in the real world.
Gamer girls, but for the internet for men.
Well,
I can't handle it, so I got to be an e-thought because I couldn't handle it at the bar.
I mean, some of them I know had boobs.
Yeah, fair enough.
I just like how Glow would always be like, I am tall and I have muscles. What are you going to do to me? I'm like, nothing. You're tall and you have muscles. Good for you.
Oh, dude, my favorite flex of his where he's like, I write Reddit posts every month. I was just like, what world do you live in where that becomes a flex? Like, really? I write Reddit posts once a month. Like, dude, I'm not bragging about sending emails. I'm just saying. There's like a severe disconnect between reality there. And that's that question about do people mirror your self-perception? Yeah, if you're delusional, your self-perception just comes across as cringy. I don't know what to tell you.
So when you had made me an EC on TRP,
yeah,
and invited me to like the EC room or whatever.
Oh, the RPEC.
Yeah, he was like, "You shouldn't be here. You don't post enough. Blah blah blah. Like, who the hell are you?" I'm like, "So your perception of my value is how much I post, like the actual top post." No, that's not my value. My value is in the comments that I've written. But okay, and he just would not let it go for like a whole thread.
Well, that's the thing. Every group he walked in, he had to compete with everybody and flex.
Right.
And I was talking with Sterling. Like, I was just on Twitter, a little conversation about that. You can tell when somebody has made it, and I hate the term alpha male, but it makes the point here. You know they've made it if they walk and see an alpha male in the wild, and their first thought is to make friends with them, as opposed to like compete with them.
So, the gym that I go to, the jiu-jitsu place, the coach is the alphast looking alpha that has ever alphaed, okay? Like, if you look at him, you will think he will eat you for lunch, take your meat out with your own ribs from his teeth and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Nice guy. But the gym he runs, he wants it to be, and I'm trying not to make a reference to what it's called or anything like that, but he wants top tier guys and girls, but mentally top tier. So you don't have to be like good. You just have to be tough-minded. And whenever he sees somebody come in who's tough-minded, he is all over them to make them part of that community.
Oh, yeah, because physical, you can train physical, you can train technique. I mean, sure, there's a talent thing, but I don't have a feeling he's trying to build like a gym for MMA with Dana White and all that stuff. But that's the thing. There's so few people, like as you improve and you build a certain level of success in your life, I've found this, and everybody I've talked to has found this. The group of guys that you can relate with on a friendly level drops substantially. So it's at the point that when you see a top tier guy, you're like, oh, thank God, it's somebody I can talk to about stuff. Like watching Rich, when he runs into a rich guy with a supercar, his eyes light up. He's like, thank God. I'm tired of talking with this dude Ryan, who's talking about his glorified shopping cart.
Well, you know what? He's definitely in a different tier financially, but it must be tough up there. Like honestly, at the same time, the one problem that I have with Cooper, and it's not really it's a problem of words. He talks about making a side gig, right?
Right.
He talks about it and wants people to put in at least the amount of time you would put into a main gig. Like,
oh, so you're like that at that point? That's not a side gig. That's a second gig.
Right. Just be honest. Okay, we're going to get you a different job. Perfect. But you have to put X amount of time into this, or you're not worthy, and we're gonna call this, side income. No, dude.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Having said that, I have this is my first entrepreneurial thing that I've ever done. I've always wanted to, but I was raised on a ranch, had a farm, joined the military. Nothing in my life was entrepreneurial organized. So I'm not a very good way to talk about it. For me, I just treat it like the lit. So I'm like, all right, so I got to put in X amount of hours, build up a giant class of IP. And if everything I do makes me $1 a month, I just need 10,000 things out there. And then bam, that's a pretty good financial goal. And that's as far into it as I've looked.
Right. And the thing is, you can get really good at almost anything, but it does take 10 to 12 years to become a master at any one thing. So if you look at Rolo, he's been doing this how long? Like not the streaming, but actually putting out content.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. He's been on it for 15, 20 years?
Right. So he's
insane when you think about it.
Right. The rest of you guys are learning the craft, and you're better with the technology. Maybe you're more up to date on that stuff. But basically, and that's fine. But everybody else who makes money off of this community or within this community has another gig.
Yeah. And you can argue whether you need it or not. That's fine. I walked away from 100K a year. For me, it wasn't about the money, but that's a good point. I was thinking when you talk about the alpha male, what's your first instinct, to compete with them or to make friends with them? Rolo's a great example of that, which is why you always see there's two things. There's the kind of content creator that will see Rollo Tomasi's work or Robert Glover's work or Manuel Smith's or whoever, Ironwood, and they want to build on it. And then there's the type that's this guy's an ass, Rolo's horrible, my chakras and crystals are better. It's that same dynamic. Do you see it as a threat that you need to beat down, or do you see it as an opportunity to build something up? And I argue that's where you can easily tell the wheat from the chaff. Is it the kind of person who automatically attacks the thought leaders of the space? I don't know what to call it, but whatever. Or is it the kind of person that takes their stuff and goes, this stuff's all great, now let me talk about this part that builds on top of it? You know what I mean?
Well, you're either going to stand on the shoulders of giants, or you're going to pretend you're a giant. Pick one.
Ooh, I like that. Or make yourself a giant by trying to cut everybody else off at the ankles.
Well, then you get really short giants.
Well, that's kind of what the Sphere's had, and that's why I like this new generation of content creators. It's not a crab bucket. There's a lot of it that is a crab bucket, but there's a small group of guys that aren't a crab bucket, and they understand this for what it is. For example, we're talking about it from a psychological perspective. The APA has really dropped the ball on males' mental health, so we're picking up the things on that. A lot of pickup artists have been so self-serving and schemy that there's a generation of day gamers now that are coming up that are, I'm just doing it as a side gig. I like women, I like having fun, and I don't got time to, go on 18 dates before I sleep with a girl. So, but you know what I mean? It's adding more fun to it. It's making game a game again. The whole thing.
So, and that's the thing, like I said last night to Jack, Warren Buffett makes money as a game. You should be doing what you do for funsies and getting paid.
Yeah. Bruce Lee, same thing. Sparring is fun, but just, play serious.
Right.
Everybody who's accomplished has that same attitude.
Play to win, but don't be an asshole, because if you're an asshole, then 5 betas will tear you down. Or not even betas, just 5 people who are not as good as you. If you're an asshole, will tear your shit down.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is the bravado too. So like if you're coming at like Ed Lattimore, great example, huge brand right now. He's like 120,000 on Twitter. He carves himself out a great living where he doesn't have to worry about money. He doesn't do any of that. And because he's such a likable guy, anybody who tries to cut him off at the ankles comes across looking very unattractive and very unappealing as a brand. So if he was in there just constantly like talking crap about absolutely everybody, as soon as, like you said, that one alpha has 5 beta males come up and attack him, to take him out, nobody really has his back because I don't know how to describe that dynamic, but you can see it's there.
And yeah, it's still a pack mentality. Like the I don't know, the wolves of the world, so to speak, they will stick together, and they will run their own shows, but at the end of the day, they will protect each other because they understand the work that's put in.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because we are a social species. I know everybody likes thinking of ourselves as literally wolves. We're closer to bonobos than we are to gorillas. So we are social. We do understand that, 3 guys at 50% are going to do far more than 1 dude at 100%. Then the trick is just to align everybody's incentives in the same direction, so everybody kind of builds themselves up. And that's that non-zero sum way of thinking that I think really makes a difference in the sphere where everybody is obsessed with being the alphaest alpha that ever alphaed.
The thing is, like, those guys are born.
The natural top tiers, yeah.
Yeah, the actual top tiers are born. And, you have to have a congruence or a confluence of genetic luck, genetic material, the right socioeconomic status, and the right upbringing as far as your emotional health, because you have that Prince Harry or whichever one is getting cucked left and right now.
Yeah.
Who
had a formative there.
Yeah, has everything, and then does what he does. I can't explain it other than I don't know, witchcraft.
Witchcraft. I like that one. Well, that's the thing. Like, and maybe it's because we have like the perspective of hindsight. It seems so obvious and clear and simple. But then I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's not that it is simple. It's straightforward. It's fairly easy. You just got to be consistent. It's not about, 110% every day. It's like at least 50% every day. But just every day is the key part, not the percentage. But you have to get rid of so much bullshit. Like, you have to stop with this, kill your insecurities. You have to kill your deficiencies. You have to stop being unattractive. You start becoming attractive, which usually means the way you're fundamentally looking at the world is flawed. Because if it wasn't, you'd be succeeding. So you literally have to, it's like Carl Sagan said, like, how do you make a pie? Well, first you create the universe. It's kind of like that. So I get why a lot of guys struggle with it. And I also get why a lot of people on the other side of it look at these guys like, oh, look at these unattractive nerds trying to be attractive. I wish they would just go in a hole and die somewhere.
I mean, and, we could go in a hole and die somewhere, or we can go fuck your wife. Like, I don't know what to say.
Well, that's just it. Like, what else are you going to do? It beats jerking off in your living room.
Right.
Or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Apparently, there's a whole group of people that call themselves Black Pill that love the living room.
I don't know. I can't speak to that. I can't make even an intelligent quip about that, because that is such a low level of self-worth.
Yeah. I agree.
Who would get isolated, back in the day? People who were mentally deficient or, unfortunate enough to be born with some sort of like issue. Those are the people that would isolate themselves. These guys are doing it to themselves.
Yeah.
For the benefit of others. Dude,
that fear of abandonment, that's a strong one, to the point where you would rather dehumanize yourself and lose any sociability. And this is the one thing I will say about it. How strong of a worldview is it if you get one of those guys laid and then just throw it all away afterwards? Like, it's a very flimsy house of cards.
Honestly, let's put together, let's put together a communal chest to get one or two of those guys laid a month and see that whole movement come apart.
Mm-hmm. Not even laid, the girlfriend experience. I always are because they say themselves, and I agree. It's not about. It's like you said. It's about the process. It's knowing you could, not about the actual money shot. I would
Oh, yeah,
argue if
absolutely.
you paid a working girl, it's like, look, it's not just this. We're going to pay you extra, but you have to act like he won you with his charming personality, and you're giving yourself freely. If you give that like theater to it, guarantee it would work like a charm, like geisha, 100%.
Absolutely. And that's why geishas were a thing. It was because they were good company.
Yeah, the girlfriend experience.
Right. And that has not changed in any society. The good escorts, whatever you want to call them, in any society on the high end spectrum, they were not there for the sex. They were there for that relaxing experience.
Yeah. Well, even the Tate guys, they were talking about this once about their cam girls, and they earn like $3 a minute just for like diddling each other on the cam or whatever it is they do. But like the human connection part, like the chatting and that was like worth 10 times as much, and that's where all like the money came from and all the interest was in. So like even now that I'm in Twitch to some extent, I see the thottery and the simping, and I get it. I don't think these guys think that these girls eventually going to sleep with them. I think it's literally just that desire for a human connection with a pretty girl. And I think that's why they're like throwing money head over fist at like, arguably sixes, young 6 out of 10s.
Imagine if they had the capacity to become friendly with a couple of good looking girls and have some social game.
Oh, dude, it's all it takes.
Right.
Friendly, some social game. I mean, the physicality, it's a force amplifier, but I don't think it's necessary. I see a lot of physically unimpressive guys doing just fine.
Oh,
Although Bogey always
absolutely.
disagree with me. He's like lifting or go home.
Like I'm case in point, but anytime I've been in a new city, I make some friends with some relatively attractive girls for work. We
Hmm.
go out, we have some drinks. They introduce me to their single friends. That's how it works.
Dude, social circle game. That's
Right.
like that's how it worked before 1997 and the internet. That's how you met people.
Like, I was actually thinking about taking John's course about,
Oh, his body language one?
yeah, game or whatever, because my success rate with that when I was doing it was one.
Hmm.
Like, it was ridiculous. But at the same time, like, I do okay with just my social circle. So why should I, get into this, tarot card reading, swipe left, swipe right?
Yeah. But then it was just like because I can, and it's something new and it's more interesting.
Right, right. And it's something you do, in a new city on your 1 hour layover.
Oh, dude, I could see that being fun. A lot of the airport waiting areas there are just full of people that are extremely bored. And if it's somebody that's already taken, you can tell because the husband or boyfriend's usually right beside them. So you automatically filter for the groups that are like DTF or at least DT single serving friend, right?
Right. And that's a great app idea. It would be like airport match. Get your rocks off on your layover.
Nice. Those $30 like executive lounges that you go into in between layovers just have like a private soundproof booth. You've basically made
Perfect.
like a legitimate form of like remember porn theaters when they were a thing? I think it's like the 70s and 80s. I don't think they're around anymore. Actually, I know one is 'cause I had a story from that I saved for Patreon, but that was disgusting. One of my coworkers, he loved that stuff, and he ended up accidentally in like a glory hole booth and put a cigarette out on something. Yeah, it's a pretty funny story, but I'm not going to tell it on this on this
Oh
one
man,
here.
I'm gonna have to log into Patreon later.
Oh, dude, makes me laugh. I was what were we talking about here? But yeah, you're dying alone, and that's the thing. None of this stuff really matters. Like it kind of matters, but it's only a subjective. Like it matters to you. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. You just got to be okay with that.
You know, and I would say this: look, if you're lucky enough to have raised good kids,
Uh huh.
good for you. They will remember you, and maybe their kids will remember whatever was said about you to them.
Yeah, and Grandpa was
After
cool.
that, you're done.
Which is fine, I guess. And if that's your goal, like I want to be remembered by two different groups of people. It seems like it really does take the steam out of the nobility of it, you know? I want to be remembered forever. I want immortality. Doesn't sound nearly as cool as I want my grad kids to remember me once a year.
Right. So, you know what? If you want immortality, then like go do something unique. Go, win a championship. Go start a new country. But at the same time, you got to remember that immortality costs. So, somebody like George Washington, like in American history, Lincoln, all those people, they were immortalized, and for a long time they were revered.
Yeah.
Now look at them.
That's true. People are throwing the statues out. Absolutely ridiculous.
So whatever your view is on the politics of it, that's not my point. My point is, if you're going to be remembered, even if you were originally remembered for some, good thing, there's a strong chance you will be demonized by somebody.
Yep. Oh, and that likability, I can see that being a sticking point too. A lot of guys hate that they won't be universally liked. Like that aversion to rejection. It's huge.
Right. Well, you know what? I'd rather be hated than not cared about.
Mm-hmm.
Or
At
not
least,
thought of.
yeah, it's like the worst isn't the opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy.
Correct.
Okay, now, guys, you're hurting my feelings. We're talking about Ryanese.
Right.
I don't know what that means. I thought we were past that. Dude, I had to write and edit a whole book. It took like a year longer than it was supposed to. Strictly to learn how to speak English again. Military writing just ruined me.
These people do not know what Ryanese is because they haven't tried to read your stuff back when you had that stone pimple temple-itis name.
Oh, yeah. Back at Scott Weiland. There, hey, Bruno. But that's the thing. That was like a real thing for me. So my entire adult life, I never had to do any writing as a graphic artist. I had to do writing as a military person. And military writing, especially messages, they're complete gibberish. Like things are acronized. Like I never had to use a vowel pretty much, unless it was a routing indicator. I never had to use pronouns. They like specifically taught you to remove pronouns from your speech for more brevity because each character, I mean, you're sending things out on a 75 baud rat ship shore channel. Do you know how long it takes to send a message out at 75 baud?
No idea, but you're the communication specialist.
Yeah, well, put it right now. This stream right now is like 6 million bytes a second.
Okay.
So 75 bytes a second difference. Like we were sending just text messages, and it literally takes like as long as it would take to read it. So everything was acromanized. Same thing as like your reviews. Like when you talked about somebody, you never said they, you never said he. It was always MBR. Member REQ, member request, and then you put like a course CISN 0293, RECC, like recommend approval or something like that. It's basically 15 letters, barely a space. It makes no sense. And so I had 12 years of that. And then you get into that and have to articulate ideas to people who speak plain language. It's a hurdle, man. It really is.
I can imagine. So it's a little bit like med school where you learn to speak in the most obscure way possible. Yeah. And then you're going to talk to a real patient and not use any of those big words you just spent years learning.
Oh, yeah. It's a slog. But that's fine. Like, whatever. We all had our part. And I know it was like a very minor thing. But at the time, I was really sore about my time in the military. And so shedding as much of that as possible was like a big part of the goal for me. I think I wrote about it in my last 30 days post. I had like I revisited it 2 years later, and I look back and all the stuff I did is so cringy now. But at the time, I'm like, yes, I'm red pilling this shit. And the captain had a letter where he said, like, I don't like this guy. He's a bag of shit. He doesn't write at a university. Like, he actually went after my university degree saying he doesn't deserve this. He's completely useless. Morally, he's defective. But, and I love that but part, but we really need him right now because the place is falling apart without him. So I framed that and I put it on my desk for my last year at work. And I was like, yeah, that's right. You hate me, but you still need me. And I was so proud of it. And I look back now and I'm like, that's probably the cringiest, most validation-seeking thing I could have probably done. But it took time to notice that.
Did you screw his wife and his daughter, or what?
No, he was busy sleeping with subordinates at work too. So that was the worst part, is that all the stuff that I was getting accused of was stuff that he kind of did on his own. Problem is, he has the power to ruin careers, or at least delay careers. And that's how I kind of got out of this whole thing, was when I realized, like, okay, so this guy's going to fight me every step of the way. So I had to go over his head, essentially like a Supreme Court injunction to get this stuff all sorted out. But I would have never done that because the risks and stakes are so high, unless I would have understand, like, from red pill perspective, risk is kind of part of masculinity, leading your life and not letting others lead it for you, making calculated risks, all that stuff. So if I had never done any of that stuff, I never would have come out of it unscathed, and not just unscathed, but as a better person in general.
Absolutely. You have to be, you have to have the mental capacity to walk away from anything.
Yeah, and then all the baggage that comes with it. There's hard choices you have to make. There's trade-offs you have to make. I always joke that I was like one of the few guys who wasn't red-pilled by a woman.
Right.
But like, so I understand the process of getting zeroed out and the pain that's in it. And then in retrospect, how it always seems so silly, but at the time it was like insurmountable, because you're shedding a ton of baggage. Like you said, we're going to die with our family, that TradCon lie there. You're having to shed that. You're having to shed the idea of women as perfect creatures. Shed the idea of, if you don't act right, then the girl's going to abandon you, like all that stuff. And that takes like a lifetime to manipulate a guy into thinking about the world that way. And you can't just expect that to go away after 3 months of reading Rollo's book and then hitting the gym a couple times. And now you're like, super alpha Chad.
One of the things that I'm still struggling with, to be honest, is just how much bad behavior is attractive to some women. Just like stupid things, like not returning a call or not answering a text or whatever else. And I don't mean like toxic behavior. I just mean like routine things that make her think that she is not a number one priority in your life.
Yeah. Well, not psychopath, asshole, essentially.
Right. But like right now, somebody called me while we were talking and I declined the call. And I know that I was like, well, in my head, like, okay, well, I have to tell her I was busy, whatever else. But like, honestly, at the end of the day, she's going to think that I was doing something more important, and that's going to make me more attractive.
Yeah. And like, why kill the illusion? She wants to believe that, so let her believe it.
Correct.
Yeah, my bad. The supermodels needed me for a minute. Anyways, what were you talking about, dear? Low key flex. Well, here's my question for you though on this. You're talking about that, like the asshole behaviors being attractive. Do you think, like, to what extent do you think it's the novelty of it? Most guys simp, and the guy who doesn't put up with their crap is kind of like a new thing. And how much of you think of it as like a DNA hardwiring thing? Like those are actual attractive markers.
So I'm going to answer that a little bit differently. I think that what we think of as being an asshole, what a lot of guys think of as being an asshole, is just normal, somewhat self-interested behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's refreshing. But I think that what sets some older guys apart for the younger girls is the fact that they're not the goal of that guy's life.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. It ties into the thing. I talk about the responsibility of chicks. Yeah. How girls like hate the idea of being responsible for something, because if there's a failure attached to it, then they're worried about it's going to be their fault. And girls hate being blamed for things. So as soon as you try to make her the center, if she doesn't live up to expectations, so she'll just sabotage it. It's going, you know what? I'd rather sabotage this now than have a chance of actually failing at it. Or disappointing, like you said before about the not finishing, how a girl sees it as she was disappointing. It's like a rejection thing.
Correct. One little trick that I've learned or I've used, is if you truly don't know what you want to do on a date or dinner or anything like that, is give her a choice of two things that is very simple. Hey, do you want to make me dinner tonight, or do you want to go to X place? Pick one. That way she has kind of like participation. She feels like she's important,
Yeah.
but not too important. Doesn't have that pressure of picking just the right thing.
Yeah, and there's no attached to that. Like no is a very easy rejection proof answer, but you never offered no. You offered A or B.
Right. Like this is going to happen. And like, I mean, she can say no, but how many people do you know when given a choice, pick a choice that's not stated explicitly?
Oh boy. All right, I guess some of us are coming in late here. I guess I'll give him a quick thing. If you guys don't know, he's been around as long as I have. He's easily as smart, if not smarter than me. Like he knows his stuff. As far as who he is on a personal level, well, he's got a career to worry about. So we'll say you're a mechanic and leave it at that.
I am a mechanic. That's actually very, very true.
Oh, a biomechanic. All right, fair enough. But yeah, it's good. Yeah, EM, a lot of guys don't know this. So everybody's always searching for, oh, I want to get these big brands as guests on here. I like these guys because let's face it, like none of us are gods. We're not Will Smith. We're not super celebrities, but we're switched on and the stuff we do is attainable. You know what I mean? Like it's not, and no offense to Tate, it's not, I'm a 6'4" ex-kickboxer who runs a cam girl thing. Like that's an unattainable goal for just about everybody. If for no other reason than there's only like a limited market for cam girls. But being a guy who can like leave an ex-wife because she wasn't valuing him anymore and then slaying a bunch of 20-year-olds, like that's a goal that guys can reach. And that's why I like it. That's why I like talking with you, man.
So I'll say this. Tate, to me, isn't impressive. He just isn't. Like, okay, so he's a guy who got in shape in his youth and got into a lucrative business. More than half of that is just luck.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and I don't want it to mean like I get there's hard work attached to that. I don't mean to demean that at all, but I'm with you. It's kind of like good for you. But that's kind of as far into it as I get. Awesome, good for you.
Right.
But it's not something that builds an insecurity or a jealousy with me or something that I aspire to. I mean, there's people that do things that I aspire to do, like Rich, for example, running his entrepreneurship to the point where he has a ton of free time. I think that's great. But again, not even a jealousy thing. It's just so much like, talk with him how he does it, swapping notes. Maybe there's things that I can show him. He likes the idea that there's somebody switched on that he can have a chat with once in a while that doesn't have to talk about their ex-wife not treating him right.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is you want to be able to relate, and who the hell can relate to Tate?
Just Joe Lampton.
Okay. Fair enough. But I still honestly, the most impressed that I've been with Tate is that he screwed Peterson's kid.
Oh yeah, dude! Did you see that Jordan Peterson has a podcast now? And the daughter did, and the first guest was dad, and that was like the first topic they talked about was like I only skimmed and I caught like clips of it, but her first topic was telling people that wasn't true, and I'm like, right there is kind of where I'm like, yeah, then it happened. Like if a girl's fighting that hard to set the record straight, I'm like, yeah. Hell, that's exactly like your story about that girl that you were smashing for a while and then you stopped. And then her fiance started having a freak out temper tantrum about it. It's like, dude, I'm not after your girl. Leaving out the part that anymore.
and
that was done months ago, dude. Don't worry about it.
And the thing is, that was truly like novelty on her end and my end. It was like, okay, well, there's this. We're both very different from our normal circle of people. Let's try it.
Ended up working out in the end. It was a fun experience, a good story. You had and that was your ex-addict bro moment, or like your letter from the captain moment where you're like, this is awesome. I out alpha alpha. And you look back, you're like, it's a good story, but I'm probably not going to do that again.
Correct. But at the same time, I'm not going to be scared of doing it if, like, non-purposefully.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because you've seen the consequences, and there are none. The consequences roll in your head.
Right. That was interesting.
I like Jack underneath here. He sounds more awesome by the minute. Like, dude, I'm not joking with you guys here. This isn't just some average schlub. say what you will about the red pill being misogynistic or shitlords or LARPers, and there's a lot of those, but like you get to the core group of guys, everybody is switched on. Like you would want to have a beer and a gym workout with just about every one of the top tier guys from the Merry Red Pill. I can't think of an exception. Dude, Frenchie would be awesome. Rule Zero Dad, awesome. He's even got a big keg of beer in the trunk of his car. He's ready to go.
Honestly, like I wouldn't mind like hooking up with him and having a beer with him somewhere.
Yeah. That's good. Maybe after this COVID thing, everybody will kind of like, you only live once. Come on down. Just don't film the thing and make it a live stream.
Yeah, that would be like when you started doing that convention thing. I was like, "What are you doing, dude? What are you doing?"
Oh, that there? Well, I don't know. Honestly, it was just Rollo asked, and I thought, it's cool. He's done a lot, so why wouldn't I? I thought it'd be a lot of fun. I was like, at the time, I was still in the military, so it's like you can't fire me. Whatever. I didn't really know anything about. In retrospect, I should have done better due diligence, but we make mistakes.
Hey, as long as you learn, that's all there is to it.
I've learned that some boomers are so bad with technology. Have you seen this one's hilarious. So when I was with the group there, you have to build like a bunch of accounts, like a Google account and all this stuff to kind of get your name out there. And I still had the stone pimple Tylus thing. And I'm like, I can't go on stage like this. So I got to come up with something. And that's where I'm like, okay, so. And I just use my middle name. I'm like, Ryan's perfect there. And then Stony from Stone Pimple Tylus, I'll just use Stone. And that'll be like my pen name. So we can separate, me doing whatever with me doing this thing. Right. But then since it was Stone Temple Pilots, like a play on that, I'm like, well, I'll make my Google Plus thing, Scott Weiland, the front man for it. And so Bruno's been trying to dox me for like 3 years now by calling me Scott Weiland. It's the funniest thing ever.
Wow. I was wondering where that tweet was coming from.
Yeah, I was like, what in the hell is he on about? And then I forgot, because I do this often. Like it's Carl and I talk about information security too. A lot of it is just poisoning the well. Like you put conflicting information in various spots. So if somebody tries to internet sleuth, they don't know what's a good lead and they don't know what's a bad lead. And it becomes very easy to deny things that you don't want out. And so it was kind of one of those things. Like I know Carl's real name, but I don't know if it's a real name or if it's a way of testing to see if people try to use it for doxing. So then he knows who's giving up information. We're very good in that way. That was kind of part of our training for most of our adult lives, but it's very interesting to see how even like the smallest bits of information security can really help protect your anonymity, or I guess privacy. I don't even want to say anonymity, because that's all you want. It doesn't matter if people know who you are. You just don't want real life ramifications. Like you don't want some idiot trying to turn you into a skin suit. It's really it.
It will put on the lotion, or it'll get whatever it was again.
Oh yeah, it puts the lotion on its skin. Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. All right, one sec here. Why does Bruno keep trying to dox people? I don't know. He's a giant child. Anyways, I don't really like talking about him other than this story, which was kind of funny. I guess he's been going on for the last 3 years. I only just removed my block list recently as an experiment to see if it was really as bad as it was. I'm not going to lie. 98% of the people on that block list were only on that block list because they hated Anthony, and then ergo hated everybody that he was associated with. So it's much cleaner now. Again, live and learn.
It is what it is.
Would be nice though. I wouldn't mind reading his eulogy. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Man. I guess so we got another half hour here. I guess we should get back on topic. The you only die alone thing. I think what we've established so far is a lot of it is faulty mental models based on an inflated self of self-importance, or like a coping strategy for a life that's not well lived. Meanwhile, a more risk-taking, a calculated risk-taking attitude, giving less fucks about life, tends to do better as far as mental models go. Just trying to think now, how would you get somebody from point A to point B on that? I mean, obviously, if they don't want to, you can't help. You can't do it. You can't drag somebody out of his stupidity.
So honestly, it helps to have some sort of trauma. They need that push. They need a push to change how they view the world. Mm-hmm. But the other thing I think that people need is role models in the sense of examples. Like that's, one of the reasons that the MRP community was so much, I think, better than the TRP community.
Yeah.
We could relate to these things and most of us had achieved something at some point in our lives, whether it was career or anything like that. So we knew what it's like to put in work and get a result.
Actually, that's a good way of putting it. Because yeah, we always came to the conclusion after a while, like once you've been around for a while, you realize there's only like 5 or 6 different scenarios, and everybody's kind of got the same sad story. Which is probably why the new guys are like, "Why are you guys so mean? I'm trying to tell you my story here," and you're like, "Yeah, dude, I've already seen 15 of these. Here's what's gonna happen.
Right.
Get on the sidebar, get reading, come back when you got some stuff to report." They get mad, dude. They get mad, very mad. Mod Mail. I have been called a bundle of sticks in Mod Mail more than other than Wine More Please. They hate him. His dick size has been like guesstimated, I would argue, at least 500 times by now.
but the real question is, why are these straight men thinking about his Asian penis?
Oh yeah, that's the thing. It's like the we're not sleeping together tonight thing on a date. It just lets you know the girl was thinking about it and she's trying not to look like a slut. If that's the first thing people go for, you're like, dude, all you're thinking about is dicks and small dicks. I have a feeling there's a reason that's your major concern right now and focus of conversation. What's the word? Like projection is perception?
Right. And so, to tie that back a little bit to legacy and dying alone, if your goal is to not die alone, then you better be building a freaking community of something.
Even then, that's the problem, is I don't even want to broach that topic. Because let's say you're the kind of person who's going to build a big enough community to have a legacy. I don't think you're going to be on Twitter listening to people giving you platitudes about your empire. I don't think you're going to buy a course on tradconning, building your empire. I don't think you're going to look to advertising from the 1950s for your worldview. Like it's like you said, you're in a whole different game. Like this stuff never comes up. This stuff only comes up when you don't have it, you're insecure about it, and you want somebody to like give you the feeling of getting it. Like the New Year's resolution. I don't actually want to solve anything. I just want to feel like I am. Get that dopamine hit so I can move on to my life where my wife tells me that she can't tonight because she's got a headache again. 6-month headaches are the worst.
So here's a business idea. Get a group of people together that will wail for you at your funeral and sit with you as you die to make you feel like you have a family.
Professional mourners. Dude, I could see that working.
I think that may be a thing too. I forget where I saw that, but that may be a thing.
Well, I kind of had like an ancient Mesopotamia idea of that. Like I remember seeing something, but it was always like a picture book or something. Let me see. Professional grievers, historical, I don't know, Greek. Let's see what the internet provides.
A long time ago.
Oh, professional griefers. All right, not quite the same thing. I got nothing.
But that's a good little idea, because if you want to build a market around what people are lacking a community. People want to feel like they have mattered, and frankly, most of us don't matter, and you have to be okay with that.
So the girlfriend experience, but from a dude's perspective, like from a dude selling perspective, or dude
it's
product.
It's a girlfriend experience from a legacy perspective.
The legacy experience. I like that.
Ooh.
Come on over. We're gonna invent like a future video that you can watch from a time machine that shows people worshiping your statues in the steppes of Mongolia.
Oh man,
all the stuff.
That's some Futurama stuff right there.
Yeah, make it all realistic looking, like one of those learning channel like dinosaur documentaries where they're like, "This is what a dinosaur would look like with feathers. This is what you like when people give a shit about you 60 years in the future." You're like, "Wow, I'm awesome. Take my money." I could see it working. Honestly, I really did. Like, illusion is such a powerful thing to sell.
Like we sell hopes and dreams all the time. Why is this any different?
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Like, even those high ticket items. Like, I know there was the last psychiatrist article I referenced it a lot, talking about training the new idea or the new generation of leaders. And it was like a Jacques Cartier watch, I think it was. Like those $20,000 type price range watches. Right. And the sales pitch they did was literally legacy. They would show like every picture was always a dad with his son or a mom with her daughter, and then the watch was there. The idea is you're giving them this as your legacy because you're never going to build an empire. So they'll sell you that, yeah, but if you buy this watch, it'll give you a little taste of that. It'll give you the feeling of empire. Meanwhile, I've never heard of a kid being gifted a watch from dad, ever. Other than that Pulp Fiction.
So honestly, like, if you look at commercials for Patek Philippe, for even Rolex, frankly, they're all about legacy.
Yeah.
And they're all about, if you look at their watches, they're all some ultra masculine thing that was, either for a fighter pilot or for like a naval captain.
The Seamaster, case in point.
Right. And so you're selling them on the idea that you came from giants.
Crazy how basic an emotion that is, that need to be somebody. It's so easily monetized too. And they have the gall to call us grifters. For shame. For shame. We don't got anything on like RX-8 or Lexus or what is yours? Beamer. BMW has been selling dreams for years. We just started.
Oh my God, dude. I have more dicks thrown at me with a BMW than I had with any other car.
Oh, dude, that's like the meme about what you think working out is like. And it's like a bunch of girls hanging off a buff dude. But what it's really like, and it's a bunch of dudes like, oh, dude, the biceps are sick.
Right, pretty much. And the thing is, like, you got to understand, like, if you're at a point where it's just you like the car and you like the experience of driving it, that's what you're getting.
Yeah, I
can go from that to a Hyundai. I'll be fine.
And but that counter signaling is like a wonderful sexual marker for signaling. Because, like, guys buy nice cars because they think chicks like guys with nice cars. And to some extent that does work. But you're like one of those guys that I specifically drive a car that I don't care is nice. Like, the irreverence about it actually makes you more attractive. People who are so focused on, I have to have $100,000 car, girls won't like me, versus the guy that's like, yeah, I had $100,000 car. It's in the garage. I never drive it. I just don't care. And I don't even want you to see it. But you know what I mean? That's the same thing as like you ignoring those phone calls. It makes you more attractive. And I think it's hard to fake because most guys are so insecure about their status in the world and their legacy that they can't pretend to have disinterest about these social signals. It's a theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but it makes sense.
I think that's definitely a thing. I think if you look at how people dress, how really wealthy people dress, they don't give a shit.
Yeah, jeans and a t-shirt with a nice watch.
or not a nice watch, or they look like they got dressed at Costco. Like, again, Warren Buffett, what's his name? Facebook dude.
Oh, Zuck. Yeah, hoodies and jeans and jogging pants still.
Like, they dress like they don't care, and they don't care because they can afford to not care.
Yeah. Well, have you ever heard the aristocrat story on this? It was absolutely, I think it's a British story, but it's fucking funny. There's this guy, he's part of the aristocracy, and his friend walks down, sees him at like a pub dressed like a peasant one day, and he goes, dude, what are you doing in here? And he goes, oh, it's okay. Nobody knows me here. And then the next day he sees him back at the country club. He's still dressed like a peasant. He goes, dude, what are you doing dressed like that? He's like, it's okay. Everybody knows me here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I always like that story.
And that makes sense. So when I lived in the big city, I lived in New York growing up. And you would see the people with real money, with generational wealth, they would have $200 t-shirts that look like crap.
Yeah, which makes sense.
And the people that were kind of like me growing up, having money for the first time, we like to dress up a little bit nicer because that made us feel good.
Yeah.
These people, it doesn't affect them anymore.
And I love that because that's such a great metaphor for the sexual marketplace. And why a lot of guys, once they get out of the red pill thing, they're past the anger, they've gotten the poon, they're good to go. Like, yeah, none of this stuff matters. The game doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. But you're right, because, you're past it. You've gotten the novelty out of your system. You've internalized it to such an extent that the stuff that's useful you keep, but you don't have to think about it and you don't have to care about it because everybody knows who you are.
Right. So, anywhere you go, if you give off the energy like that, you're comfortable with what you are without being a slob, you're cheerful, and you're not too nice, You'll be fine.
Yeah. Because you can't have any insecurity and pull that off. You can fake it to some extent, but not really well. And so at the very least, it allows other people to be so intrigued and interested by your frame that they want to find out more. It's like a huge display of higher value. I mean, and then obviously, like, you can't be a multi-millionaire and not have somebody hang out with you for like a weekend and not find out somehow. Like, you can't hide it. But like you said, you're not hiding it. You're just not leading with it. You're not using it as your sense of value.
Right. Like, so if you have a nice car, you don't talk about the car. You may talk about it in a self-depreciating way, like, crap, I wish I had better mileage. I want to go back to my Hyundai.
Yeah. Or like I say with mine, the Lexus, glorified shopping cart, because I don't drive. I don't like driving in the city. I hate traffic. So it's literally when we make those trips to Joe Fresh once a week to buy vegetables so we can cook for ourselves. So I guess not a flex about it. Although when my girl first bought the car, she loved it. But that was her first like luxury sedan or whatever you want to call them.
But look at you flexing that you can cook.
Yeah, I know. I can apply heat to vegetables. What do you got, nerds? That makes me laugh. But I liked it, dude. I honestly, for me, cooking, that's my version of like the first chance I had to buy a Lambo. Did I ever tell you why I like cooking?
Nah.
It's the military, man. Like, cooks make or break the morale on the ship, and I'm not joking with you. Like, the coffee was so bad. That's when I had to learn about salting your coffee there, because the coffee was horrible. It was always the cheapest coffee. Everything we ate was just from like a buffet line. And we had one of the best ships in the fleet when it came to meals too. But everything easy is what's made. So it's always deep fried this. It's always French fries. It's always deep fried chips. I mean, there's always chowders on Tuesdays. And then the longer a sale goes, the more the quality goes down. So like for our deployment, at the very end, during like the breakfast line, they had switched over to that instant 30-second microwavable bacon. And when we would eat it, it would still be cold. Like, we didn't even get to the point where they could microwave it for 30 seconds. They just didn't care. And then when I got home, I'm like, I am not eating like that again. So I was like, I'm learning. I am going to be like the best cook that I can be, because I hated that. I like good coffee. I don't even like great coffee. I just like good coffee. I like good food. I like putting some effort into it. And I will never eat pre-cooked, freeze-dried bacon again. Screw that noise.
Let me ask you this question. Did they serve poutine on ship?
Our ship actually didn't. Like, you could occasionally, like very rarely, they would have it as a thing. But the consistent stuff, there was always, so for Stand Easy, there was always curry soup on Tuesdays. It was always seafood soup on Thursdays. And Friday, I think, always had hamburgers. I might be mistaken a couple of the days there, but it was like always so convenient, like all so consistent. But it got to the point that, yeah, poutine, never much. The East Coast ships, they loved poutine. They always had poutine. It got so bad, though, like during our deployment, my mess, 15 guys, we had like 100 pounds of whey protein in there because we just couldn't eat on the meal lines anymore. We're like, no, we can't do this. It's just brutal. It's killing us. We lived off of whey protein. Oh, the mess smelled horrible. Smelled like protein farts all day.
I mean, what do you get when you can get a bunch of sailors in a ship? You know, I sense a seaman joke coming. I don't know.
Oh, there's always good ones, but whatever. And they always joke that we're like the least heterosexual of the forces. I'm like, dude, we're not the ones sitting in foxholes with buddies for 6 months at a time. At least for us, every now and again, they throw us in the city and say, here's some money. Good luck. We'll see you when you get back. Stay out of trouble. We're just like a consistent series of dry spells. That's all.
Yeah, but the thing is, so I think there's a urgency to it that you had as a sailor that guys who stay on shore don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
are we talking about game or cooking or what?
Oh no, we're talking about women.
Ah, okay.
Like in general, like I have 100 hours or 48 hours or whatever hours to get laid.
Yeah,
that's all I have. I have to use it.
I had to.
So, there's a little pressure there, and I think that was invaluable because I think a lot of guys get stuck in the next week.
Mm-hmm.
and don't know that there's a window that they have to use. So they create that sort of like deadline, or being in port creates a sort of deadline for you that
Yeah.
you either succeed or you don't succeed, at least at first.
Yeah. Well, it's not even just the port, it's at home too. Like that was my dating experience before I started learning pickup and like the mystery method and stuff. It was literally I would go on a date with a girl, we'd have like 2 dates, and then the third date would have been going well. And it's like, yeah, so what are you doing like 3 months from now? And obviously girls have options. They're like, yeah, it was nice meeting you. So it's
Right.
like literally, it was literally one night stand or nothing. So I had nothing because you just can't build a relationship off of that time. And so it was either that or I just jerk off in my living room, and I made the choice. One man's way, good point here where he talks about the Chili Mac MREs for the win. Dude, we called them IMPs in Canada. I think they were IMPs. I always get the names mixed up. Ours were brutal. They always joked because there was like generic serial number 1, 2, 3 through 7. And they always called me generic minority number 4 because nobody could ever guess what my ethnicity was. And then I tell them I'm Irish and they're like, whatever. I'm like, all right, fair enough.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, I think experiences shape people, and having a little bit of abundance in something can translate into another field, but you have to be mindful about it.
Yeah.
And so, back to the legacy and dying alone thing, when you're laying there, like, struggling for your last breath, are you really going to be thinking back throughout your life? Or are you going to be like, I need to breathe right now?
There's something to be said for priorities. I want the pain to stop. It's not, oh, I hope my family can see this.
Right.
I hope they weep for me for 2 weeks and then fight Troy.
And so, I don't know. For me, the whole thing is like, and it's not just men who die alone, like it's women too and all that stuff. But, at the end of the day, nobody will remember you. My parents want me to remember my grandparents that I never met. They want me to take care of their grave sites. And maybe I will because I feel an obligation towards my parents.
Yeah.
But after that, like, come on, nobody's going to remember shit.
No. It's a completely irrational worldview. Like there's nothing about it that actually makes sense. So it's purely about emotions. And let's face it, like your emotions are bad and you should feel bad for having them. This is just another one of those.
Right. And if you're good looking, then your emotions are good. And if you're bad looking, your emotions are bad. And, screw you anyway. Like that's the world right now.
And that's the nihilistic roadmap. Everybody seems to get so mad at nihilism because they get stuck at the bottom of it. Like calling out this all stuff as nonsense and nonsensical and not working. That's like the downtrend. That's God is dead. And then once you're done with that, okay, so now that he's dead, what do you replace it with? To which your answer is like everything else that he'll tell you is like, no, that's kind of dead too. And that's dead and that's dead. So you realize it's literally whatever I want it to be, as long as I commit to it for so long as it's beneficial to me.
Right. And, all this stuff about morality and ethics, all morality and ethics comes down to a self-interest.
Yeah. Well, that's the master and the slave morality. Does this objectively improve my lot in life? Yes. Well, then now I'm considering that moral. Or correct. If I can't change things, is me suffering through other people's moral choices good? In that case, if I have no choice, then yeah, that's good. That's the slave mentality. That's turn the other cheek.
Right. Or how can I rewrite history?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It should kind of be a personal red flag once you start realizing that putting up with stuff that you shouldn't have to, you're treating it like a moral good. That just lets you know you're in a position of powerless. And male powerlessness is like a lack of freedom. So if you're in a position where, I'm a really good employee at a job you hate, then yeah, chances are that's a slave morality thing. You should get to the point where you're at a place where you're like, this is moral because I just made 6 figures this year as a bonus because, whatever. I don't even know what to say, but I sold the best widget or something like that. Or I started my own company. That's moral right now because now I don't have to have a boss who calls me a moron 3 days a week.
Right. So, I make my money helping people.
Yeah.
We all help people. We can sweep streets or we can design or we can be Tesla, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah, we could be the girlfriend experience. I help people. I'm a cam whore.
I mean, that's helping some people, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so like, I guess heroin helps when you have a heroin withdrawal. I don't know if you can brag about it, but heroin's helping.
Yeah, but when you need it, you need it.
Yeah. And Mario's got a good point. People don't like that responsibility because it takes work. I would argue it's not even the work. Because I've seen a lot of guys in like plow horse marriages that are breaking themselves hand over fist on these things. I would argue it's that failure, the aversion to failure, because if you fail, it becomes your fault and that reflects poorly on you, like as an identity. Well, if I try to hit on a girl and she rejected me, well, I'm just a piece of shit. And guys don't like that. Or if I fail at my entrepreneurial thing, I'm gonna be poor and broke, but worse off, I'm an absolute failure in life. And I think that's why people don't do it. Not because it's hard work.
So I'm going to expand on that a little bit. It's not the work, and it's not the fact that they're afraid of failing.
Mm-hmm.
It's that they're afraid of failing at something nobody else told them was okay.
Oh. I'm curious. Walk me through this one.
So most people, graduate high school, go to college, or don't go to college and get a job, go to college and get a job at a company and get their paycheck and go home and jerk off and watch TV and then go to bed with their wives, usually in that order. So, they don't have people around them, most people, who tried to break the mold.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're being told by somebody they've never met really or seen, try this, try that, try going out on your own and seeing if you can succeed. And it's not the fear of failure. It's the fear of failure at something they themselves thought of.
Yeah, because there's no other shoulders to put the responsibility of that onto but your own.
Right. You can't blame your parents. You can't blame society. You can't blame your wife. You can't blame your kid. You can't blame the dog. It's all you.
Yeah. I could see that being a hard pill to swallow. But here's the thing. That's what I love too. Once you're kind of red pilled, you got a better like risk assessment, a better mental point of origin, or even just like a confidence in your own abilities. Well, that sucked. And you just kind of laugh. It's like now the letter with the captain or yours with like the ex-wife, you just kind of laughs like, oh, that was dumb. And then you just move on. Like whatever.
Right. And then, you walk into the next room and all of a sudden people who would normally have not listened to your opinion are now paying attention at least.
Yeah.
Like the other day, and when I started the job I have now, my boss, the person who employs me, I'm not going to say my boss, wanted me to do something that I did not want to do professionally. And I said no. And they said, well, these other guys would have done it. And I said, then hire them.
Dude, that's ultimate abundance right there. Like you're literally unconcerned over whether that causes you to lose your employment or contract or whatever you want to call it.
But here's the thing. I'm not unconcerned. It's actually tactical.
Okay.
Because, if I had just moved to a new city from across the country, this is the only person that can pay me like legally right now. So I need a job. It's not like I'm daring them to fire me. It's not like I am independently wealthy. But what I am is I am establishing a boundary that, listen, you're trading your money for my skill set. If you want my skill set, this is what you're going to pay me, and this is how I am going to do it. Because if I don't establish that boundary now, you will cross it every time. That company will cross it every time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will have nothing to stand on. And let's say they crossed it immediately and they said to me something like, you either do this or you're fired. Well, great, because now I save myself a couple of years worth of frustration.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's the cognitive reframe. And you can map this to girls just as easily. If you just did more chores around the house, I'd probably be comfortable. We'd sleep together more, right?
Oh, God.
Yeah, exactly. You just saved me a bunch of years. I'll be right back. I got to go talk to the lawyer.
Right, right. Like honestly, so this girl that I'm seeing said something along the lines of the first time we didn't sleep together, like we had played around and didn't wind up sleeping together.
Hmm.
She said something like, I'm just trying to respect my body. I want to blah blah. I just laughed. I literally laughed at her and left. Guess what happened the next time we hung out?
Oh, obviously smash.
Right, but the point is like, okay, that's your boundary. Fine, call me when you know what you want. And
Yeah.
that's basically what I said. I was just laughing about it because I saw the game because I saw that this chick or any other chick didn't want to be seen as easy by like they don't want to be seen as easy by a high value guy.
Yeah.
They want
But at
to
the same
say
time, they want to be easy. They just don't want to be seen as easy.
correct. They want to know that you will still respect them in the morning or whatever. So that's why they're like, oh, I didn't sleep with 15,000 guys in 1 year.
Now that's a train to run through. Jeez. But
I
yeah, I
mean,
guess we can. I guess we can end on this topic though. We're coming on close. I gotta have time for breakfast here in half an hour. Rule 0. I can't remember if it's Rich or Rolo doing it, but dude, and take us out. Take us out on a good ending thought here.
oh man, pressure. At the end of the day, nothing matters except what you want to matter. Because if anything you do doesn't match to what you want to be doing tomorrow, it's either useless or worse, it's counterproductive. So I said something to Jack last night along the lines of like, it's it's either something you thought of or it doesn't matter.
Makes sense. And it chips will fall where they may. All right, guys.
Right.
Well, anyways, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, all that. You guys know the spiel at this point. Dude, always curvy. Dude, I love having time spending with you on this stuff.
Same man.
Don't forget books right there. You guys are talking about in there. I honestly, a lot of the stuff we talk about there, you're going to see kind of the formative part of it. And if you can't pull out at least something that resonates with your life or something that you can use to improve your life, then I've failed as a writer. So, but I guarantee you will. And come check us out, Rolo's channel, Rich's channel. I'm just going to end it. I don't have an end segue. I need some kind